All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us yet again on this Saturday. I know you guys had a chance to not only see a couple of episodes of SDCC piece, but also, another episode of This Week in Review. So thanks for being with us. We're capping off today with yet another special edition episode of SDCC Peeps Volume 2. And the guest that I'm bringing on, I'm happy to, have back. You've, enjoyed much of her, work for the breakdowns that we have for American Gods, and she provides a lot of her talents with a lot of the stories that we do here over at Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Right now, she's over at Gem City ComicCon, also providing her talents as a comic creator. So it's my pleasure to welcome back Emily Whitten. Give me one moment while I bring her on. Hey, Em.
Hey, Brandon. It's
What's
good to
going
see
on?
you, or not see you, but talk to you.
But first and foremost, thanks for hopping on back and, squeezing some time. With that being said, all what I've been uh, doing to start these shows is talking about, how the last 18 months have been, but we've seen each other in all that time. So I feel
We
like we're in a
have.
better situation than many of our other guests. So with that being said, I want to hop right into the next topic. And from our first doing this the first go around, one thing that I found very fascinating asking everyone is, what was your first Comic-Con? But as a sequel to that question, the question this go around has been, what has been your first Comic-Con back and how was it? Now I know I have an answer to that question, so how is the current one that you're at, and can you speak to it?
Yeah. Well, this isn't the first one since I've been back. So
Right.
we went to Pensacon, and I believe we talked about that afterwards, and that was a lot of fun. And now I'm at Gem City Comic Con in Dayton, Ohio, and it's a 2-day show at the moment, and so we just had day one. So I got my hamster ears on because
Of
that's one of
course.
the things that, yeah, that's one of the things that goes with the Underfoot graphic novel series that I co-created and co-write, which is about hamsters, intelligent hamsters in a post-apocalyptic world. So the first day, there was some pretty good foot traffic. This is a show that's really focused on the comics, so it's not as much of a celebrity and comics. It's just comics and
Sure.
all of the accoutrement of that. And I saw a good number of people. We It wasn't the most busy day I've ever had, but I certainly saw several people walk off with books and or hamster ears or stickers or buttons or some
Awesome.
combination of all those things. And actually, speaking of COVID and all of that, it's good to try out new things. So as you can see, I got some new colors.
Of
So
course, yeah.
they've been pretty popular so far. So yeah, I mean, everybody here has been very nice. I met, my next door booth mate, and we've had some fun chatting. And then, of course, there were some nice people on the floor buying the books and wanting to talk about them and promising they'll be back tomorrow with more money. So some of them maybe, hopefully.
Okay, fingers crossed.
That
Yeah.
always it always happens, and actually, like a lot of the time, people do come back and they're like, "Oh, I said I was going to come see you, and I did." Had one person who was like, "Oh, I'll probably be back tomorrow," and then they showed back up today. So I guess it just depends how much you want that hamster book.
Indeed.
And so yeah, so it's been pretty nice so far to hang out with folks, and nice to see some people that we haven't gotten to see in over a year. Speaking of COVID, and so I'm definitely seeing some friends in the industry who I've missed, and it's really nice to see them. So we're catching up, and so in some ways it's like we've never been apart. So that's pretty fun. Yeah.
Cool, cool. And with that being said, I think you're the one guest that I've had thus far, or one of the folks that we have for the special edition episode that have been to multiple shows. So I remember you were talking about Pensacon and how there was that interesting dynamic of people trying to kind of figure each other out and say, okay, is it okay for us to do this? Is it not okay for us to do this? How do you
Hmm.
feel about it? Um, Did you get that same sense here at Gem City Comic Con, or now that we are a couple of months in with a lot of these shows coming back, do you feel that it was a little more seamless in that way and people's comfort?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely still some people walking around with masks, and there are some without, and either is, fine as long as people are looking after their health and following the protocols. But there hasn't been as much ooh, can we do this? How are
Yeah,
we about, like if there are, especially with some friends with children who are wearing their masks and are not vaccinated because they're children, I said, do you want me to put my mask on? And she said, no, they've got their masks and it's fine. But, obviously if they want to, I will respect that.
yeah, of course.
Um, and since I'm fully vaccinated, obviously there's still concerns about the various variants and all of that, but I'm feeling relatively more normal, which is nice. I think there was more of it at Pensacon, but I think also Pensacon, was earlier in this whole cycle that we continue to go through. And I think if we were back at Pensacon now, it might be, just like this. There was less than I expected at Pensacon, but there was a good amount. There is definitely not a ton of that feeling here at the moment. But you're, still seeing people in masks and walking around. I'm still using a lot of hand sanitizer and all of that kind of
Definitely.
stuff. So yeah.
Cool. Well, with that being said, I mean, one thing that has also been very interesting about this weekend is they're outside of Gem City Comic Con. I can talk today. Outside of that show, you also have, of course, what I wanted to get into, which was Comic Con at home. But the thing that has been fascinating is people's attitudes toward it. Like, I feel like the first year there was a lot of anticipation about it because it was so new, and now that everyone has gotten a taste of it, or have an assumption of what it will be, it's kind of blase now, and folks are like, oh yeah, I'll catch it when I catch it, and I'm more looking forward to what they announced for November with this, what they're doing with this kind of, I guess, pseudo express show, I guess you can say. So what has been your feel for it, especially in speaking to like contemporaries, at other tables as well, that are considering it or thinking about it?
Yeah, well, I think obviously since I'm here this weekend, I don't really get to see a lot of it in the moment. So
Right,
I wasn't in that mode ever because I knew I was coming over here to Gem City.
right.
But in the spirit of Comic-Con at home, I did we have some folks that we always get pizza with at the con. And so we did a Zoom pizza night, and that was really nice because we hadn't seen each other in a little while anyway, so we're catching up. And they were definitely saying that there was a little bit more feeling from them of, well, it's all going to be on YouTube and all of that. I know that they like, to the extent that we do in person. One of my friends had gone through and added everything they wanted to see to the schedule, and then there was a million things they wanted to watch, and they had a few that they were really interested in and were maybe going to watch in the moment. And so I think there is still some of that, which is nice because it is supposed to be a specific weekend. But there was also definitely a little bit of the idea of, well, we can also catch it later. I know that some announcements have started coming out and people are excited about that and talking
Yes.
about those. And I know we were talking about like the new Dune movie
Yeah,
information
yeah.
and different things like that. So I definitely think that the announcements and the news are what's happening in the moment now, and then the other stuff, the panels and everything. I think some people are watching them as they come out, and some people are more like, well, I can catch it later. But also, especially for people who haven't been able to get out to another one, like I go to a number of them and always generally have because of the different work things I do. But if you're a person who goes to maybe 2 a year and now you haven't been to any in like a year and a half, I could see it still being like, let's make the weekend a Comic-Con weekend and then feel a little more excited about that. Yeah, so
And I was gonna say
for
that.
myself, oh, I was just gonna say for myself, I definitely am gonna see what's on YouTube when I get back. But obviously at the moment I'm not able to really watch it in person.
Sure, of course. Well, I guess what I also wanted to get into is, our industry is so small in terms of like, you know, everyone speaks with everyone about, have you been to this show? Have you been to this show? You know, how do you feel about this show? Should I go to this show based on your prior experience? So I guess in that regard, and even though there still is a, you know, Comic-Con is kind of taking a back door to, it seems like, priorities for other things that, you know, people are doing this weekend. In some cases, did you still feel in terms of it being brought up in conversation of, you know, maybe with other creators, you know, that you were, you know, conversing with over the last day or so? If
Yeah,
they
I
were getting a
mean,
table, like, I don't know if I'm
mhm.
getting a table for that November show, or like, am I gonna, you know, take my stuff to that November show? Am I gonna hold out till the 2022 show? Like, did any of that come up, you know, as a topic,
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of speculation as to what
or
the
how's it gonna
November
work?
show,
Like, yeah,
yeah, what it'll be like, how is it gonna function, who's gonna be there, is it gonna be like nobody knows exactly how it's that one's going to compare to a San Diego Comic-Con, but it might, I mean, I could easily see a world in which it's very similar to, you know, certain other cons. It's just not what you would necessarily expect from a full San Diego con, but it could still be very interesting and fun, and you know, for businesses and creators, it could be profitable. There's definitely some comments about when it's been scheduled for, because it's not really a great time for
you
everyone.
said that so
Um,
politely.
well, I mean, you know, like some people, I guess, are gonna be fine with it, and some people are gonna be like, I have other priorities at that time,
Of
you know.
course,
So,
especially now that we can
um,
technically, in a lot of cases, actually be in front of each other. So yeah,
right, yeah, I can go
for the
see my
first time.
family or friendsgiving or whatever might be happening, you know. And so I think there's definitely an element of that. That definitely plays into. I will not be going, and I you know, I hope it does very well, and I hope everyone there has a great time. I will not be at that one because I have other priorities at that time. But I think, you know, it's not, whatever happens, I hope and think it will be good enough for everyone to maybe, because San Diego, you know, it's also has to bolster itself until it gets to the next one, because it, you know, San Diego Comic Con had to cancel their contracts and do whatever
Mm-hmm.
internal
Mm-hmm.
business related things they have to do. I have no internal knowledge of this, but I know how
Yeah.
conventions are run,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's a lot of,
A lot
you
of
know,
logistics.
collateral on the line in some instances, and a lot of logistics, and so they've had to deal with all of that. And I'm sure a little bit of, you know, inflow of cash and profits would not hurt them. So I hope it does well. I hope it bolsters the company, um, so they can keep doing, you know, the full con. I hope that anyone who is going to go is going to have a great time, and you know, if they're working and selling, make a good profit and everything. um but yeah, and it's interesting too, because you know, you're right that a lot of people in comics know each other and are connected and all of that. But on the other hand, you know, I'm at this Dayton show, and there are a lot of local creators here who I have not met before. So there's a lot of talent that we don't necessarily see at every big show that's still in our country and other countries. But I mean, I'm
Great
just
point.
talking about
Yeah.
the shows I go to
Yeah.
generally so far. Hey, invite me other places, people. I would love to go other places. Let's go to England. I like England. Um, but you know, so I've already met a couple of creators who are Ohio based and who I had not really known before, or I had maybe seen them at one other show, but they're not really at a lot of the ones I often go to. And so it's also fun to go to one I haven't been to before, because some of these people at this show, some of the guests, you know, go regularly to this one or had been before COVID, and I've never been. So I'm meeting some new people. I'm chatting with some new artists, or new to me artists, and that's fun. And it just goes to show how much talent there is in the industry that, you know, isn't just the biggest names or the people I see all the time at the ones I go to most often. So that's pretty interesting from day one already.
Cool. Awesome. And just to close things off, because I know you're heading off, and
I yeah.
so. Um, I guess the last thing that I would ask that has been a fascinating question to ask everyone is, and from your perspective, it would be a good one too, whether it's, from what we do in the media, since you do that, but also as a creator, what are some things that you foresee or theorize could we could see going forward with con culture, or with how our cons are executed? Because I feel like the way what the last 18 months have done to us as a society has affected everything. A lot of the things that we take for granted, everyday
Mm-hmm.
things that we just do and don't really think too much about. And with huge undertakings that cons are, and everything that's involved, and all the moving parts, there's obviously going to be some things that will never be able to be the same again, and there are some things that we'll still be able to keep, but there are going to have to be some changes or some tweaks to how it's done from here on out. With
Yeah.
all the constantly changing landscape with variants and all those other insane
Yeah.
things. So, what are your
I
thoughts on
mean,
it?
yeah, I mean that's a huge question.
Yes, I know. A lot, a
But
lot.
I'll look at it from a couple of different perspectives. One
Okay.
is from the perspective of, like with attendees, I hope hygiene will continue to be a high priority even though we're
Yes.
coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
I will remind everyone that BO is not pleasant and deodorant is your friend, or whatever
Yes.
alternative thing you found that you like for your health but also makes you not smell. Because I have already experienced it again. The two
Oh
cons I've been back
no.
to, both of them
Oh
have had
no.
some folks who
Oh
didn't
no.
remember that other people smell them.
Oh
So
no.
I will, and obviously I'm not just talking about that hygiene, which has always been a bit of an issue in the industry's,
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
conventions
yeah,
for
yeah.
whatever reasons. But also obviously, like, hand washing and sanitizer, and making sure that if you honestly, like, at this point in our lives, if you are coming down with a cold or feel a little under the weather, even if you don't think it's any big deal, I think it's great to wear a mask for the, other people's benefit. We all own them now, so just pull out your mask if you've got a cough or something. Don't get in people's faces with it. So I actually hope to see that, even if it's not COVID related specifically, but if someone feels like they've got a tickle in their throat, like if you're sick, you should stay home. But if they've got like a little bit of a cough or something and they're like, oh, it's just a little something, but you could still give it to somebody. So, wash those
Yeah.
hands, wear that mask, all that stuff, because I come down with colds more often than I would like to. And I mean, it's just all of the interactions that we have as human beings. Um, so yeah, from attendees, I hope that. Another point that I was thinking of with attendees is I wonder how many people. The economy is kind of all over the place right now, and that's a whole
Yeah.
other thing to talk about.
Topic.
But
Yeah.
I wonder if at a point where more people are feeling comfortable again, there will be any sort of, like, instead of at a point where it was like, well, should I go to this show? It's going to cost a bit and this and that. Maybe there'll be some like, well, maybe I should go to this show because I might not get another opportunity, or like, you only live once, as it is, the YOLO thing. Maybe from a different perspective, like maybe we'll have people making their con attending decisions differently. So that'd be interesting to see, assuming they can afford it, because it's costs a bit to travel out to this stuff. From the organizing standpoint, I would like to see more approaches to a mix, like hybrid, virtual, and in person. Now, don't get me wrong, the in person, there's nothing to compare to it in my view. But I would like to see continued study of how you could also do engaging virtual shows, the kind that people do anticipate for that weekend only, but not necessarily by only having the content be live and that's it, you've missed it if you can't go. Like maybe there's a
Right.
mix of some of that you
A
were able to see in the
hybridization, if you
moment.
will.
Yeah, like some things that are live, only live in the moment, some things that are going to be up later, but maybe, like, again, like specials, you can only get XYZ time if you're logged in and if you're doing that. And then you told me about, I think it was Farpoint, where they
Yes.
had like almost the walk around like thing, a map in the interactive like virtual map that you could go
That
to,
was
that
so
was like,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to see that from everybody. I was very surprised that that's the only time I've heard about that, and I haven't experienced it. And you told me about it and I was like, that's really honestly what I expected everyone to start doing, was like, let's figure out how to make this a better experience than simply, and I mean this with all the respect of us having had to figure all this out, but like simply videos on YouTube or something like that. And Dragon Con has had a little bit of that feel to it because they already did, because they already had, like, when you're sitting in a panel room waiting, they have the little jokes that the Dragon Con staff have written that are at the audience or to the audience, or like having a conversation with the audience and all of that. So they already had a little bit of that feel, but I liked the sound of what you told me about Farpoint, and I would like to see that, as we are back in the regular walking around world, we also are cognizant of what we could do to have interesting virtual events going forward, or more continuing increasingly interesting, because I'm not saying that nothing that people put on was fun, because it has been fun, but and especially if you're a creator, maybe some interactive things that could be done with people who would usually walk by your table. Maybe you have an hour block where everybody can, I don't want to say chat roulette you because that sounds weird, but kind of talk to the people. You could interact, but it gets, after a certain point, it moves on at your discretion, not their discretion. Like they can or you can, but like, if it's like at some point you have to do it, you have to move on to the next potential person who might want to talk about your books or meet you or whatever.
Right.
But then they could, get directed to your store, or get a personalized, autograph thing sent to them through your store or whatever. And so it's like they have the experience of meeting you, talking to you, and deciding to buy the thing and getting an autographed copy or something. In this virtual time, we have book plates now, which we never had. And so now, like, and we mailed them around the country. So Ben signed them, I signed them, Michelle signed them, Tom signed them. So they're little book plates, one for book 1 and one for book 2 of the Underfoot graphic novel series, as I've mentioned again. And they're real cute. Michelle designed them to go with each book, and we signed them. And so if you can't get there in person, we figured out another way that you can get an autograph. And those are available on my website, going forward, so that if people have bought them and requested them specifically, so they're interested. So if people can't get to a convention at all for whatever reasons that might have nothing to do with COVID, they could still get something like that. So I see that as one way that we adapted. Like personally, I adapted and my group adapted. And so it seems like there could be more thought continually put into how the conventions can adapt to both models, or a hybrid model, or whatever.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, with that being said, Em, thanks for squeezing some time out during this time on Saturday in between shows. Before I let you go, can you tell folks where they can find you?
Of course, I am at the Emily ESSE everywhere. And my books are The Underfoot Volumes 1 and 2, The Underfoot Into the Sun, The Underfoot, The Underfoot, The Mighty Deep is book 1, and The Underfoot Into the Sun is the new one that just came out in April. They are available on my website, theemilyesse.com, or you can also get them at Oni Press or Amazon or Target or Barnes & Noble. But feel free to stop by my website. I got hamster ears, lots of fun goodies, and come say hi on Twitter, Instagram.
And check out her awesome show that she did with us with American Gods,
yes,
and her breakdowns and discussions of American Gods, which, by the way, I will need to chat with you on offline about, because there's some updated news in that regard of something that may be coming that I think you know what I'm talking about. So, all right. So with that being said, guys, I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us. You can find me at Brandon Troy ENT on Twitter and Brandon Troy _ENT on Instagram. Of course, on for Movers and Shakers, Move and Shake UNLTD, Facebook and Twitter, respectively, and Movers and Shakers Unlimited on Instagram. Thanks again so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon. Later.